Casual Magic has been sponsored by Quiver, maker of the Quiver and Bolt deck cases and other fine deck holding accessories. Use the code CASUAL on their website for 10% off your order. You can also support Casual Magic directly by going to our Patreon at patreon.com/ShivamB. And now, on with the show. Hello and welcome to Casual Magic, the show where we talk about the fun side of Magic the Gathering, usually, most of the time, but not this one. My name is Shivam Bhatt, and Casual Magic is sponsored by Quiver and my Patreon, patreon.com/ShivamB. Today, I have decided, I don't know if you guys have noticed, I've been doing a lot of these shows lately where I've been delving more into pop culture and people I find interesting, but that's because it's my show and I can't. And today I decided I'm going to have one of my all-time favorite authors on the show because he's one of my all-time favorite authors, and as long as I have an interview show, I can get away with that. I've done 330 of these. I'm allowed. I am joined today by one of the greatest fantasy authors America's ever produced, and certainly the best Marxist fantasy author I've ever read, of the many Marxist fantasy authors I've ever read, I'm sure. But definitely just a dude that I've been reading since I was in college and has been writing books since I was born. And Steven Brust, who is just seriously in my pantheon of people that I'm forced to read, very, very high up there alongside my buddy Tad Williams and Dragonlance books, but that's my own personal flaw. I'm so grateful to be that you joined me today, man. I've been reading the freaking Vlad books for 26 years now, and almost I think every other year or so I do a full reread from start to whatever the newest one is, and I just cannot get over how damn good they are. So thank you for joining me today.
My pleasure. You're a friend of Tad?
Yeah, I've known Tad for a long time.
Such a great guy.
Yeah, he was he wanted me to find out if you still wore the hat. And lo and behold, here you are, still wearing your famous hat.
This is the side I sleep on.
Yeah, audio listeners, one side of his hat is folded upwards. He looks like kind of a Renaissance-y, not Renaissance, I guess I don't know, Three Musketeers-y type of hat.
It's called a Cavalier. The style is called a Cavalier. That's
exactly what it is. It looked like... Okay.
Do you know the reason why they have this? It literally came from the Musketeers because the musket was taller than the head. And then later the Australians, if you see Australians with the same style, because they would have the rifle and bayonet and holding it like this, so they would pin up the side.
That makes... I never actually thought about that because I thought it was just, it's flourish, Renaissance costuming or whatever. But that makes hella sense. If you're holding your musket over your shoulder and it hits your hat every time, that would probably get very, very irritating.
Yeah, all of that stuff usually has a reason. You've seen those, speaking of Renaissance, cuffed boots, where that became a style, but originally it was... Yeah, I'm sitting here gesturing and nobody can see below my window.
Half of it's on video.
Originally, they formed the function of chaps. When you were on your horse, it would go all the way up to your crotch.
Yeah.
And then, you dismount and roll it down below the knee.
Is that to keep mud and stuff from landing on your pants and things?
Well, it's to keep your legs from chafing on the saddle.
Right. That would work too. Yeah, because if you have leather boots, then when you're rubbing against a horse, then you're not going to get obliterated. But oh man, I have so much I want to talk to you, and I'm trying to figure out how do I sort this out into exactly how I break this down. So I'm going to just give people a kind of a 10 seconds of what this story is and all the other books you've written. I'm not going to explain every book you've written. You've written a lot of books, but
wordy son of a bitch.
Yeah, I mean, look, dude, I remember when I met you for the first time at a signing you did at Borderlands in San Francisco, which is my home bookstore and one of my favorite places to go. And I came to you with literally a stack of something like 30 or 40 books at the time. And I was like, I'm sorry, I waited to the end. Would you mind signing these? And you're like, man, I wrote them. I have to sign them, I guess. And I'm like, that's fair as hell, dude. But
me.
Yeah, dude. Like, so effectively, this story follows a dude named Vlad Taltos, who's, I guess, looks a lot like you did maybe 40 years ago with a long, black, bushy Hungarian mustache. And
maybe he looks a bit like the way I wish I looked.
That's fair.
That would be a
I will give you that. All I know is every time I see your author pictures, I'm like, that's Vlad, man. That's straight up. But it's like a human in a world of, well, he calls them elves, but they're basically a mystical, tall, long-lived race of magical beings that we learn over the story are long-lived elves with magical powers. That's not the point. The point is, every book in this series is a different genre, which is entirely wild. Like, the first one starts off, this dude is a low-level mafia boss living in the human sector of a magical foreign city of the Gregarian people, and he's doing mafia boss things like, hey, you are late on your payments, I'm going to break your legs, or, I need to go and find these people who are muscling into my territory and break their legs. And it's like very much a mafia story, and that's how I got hooked in. And then every subsequent book just became like, oh, it looks like Brust wants to explore what Westerns are like, or Brust is trying to write like, a murder mystery, or like some other genre of the week. And it just is so fascinating the way this story is like linear, but every book isn't necessarily following the previous one. Sometimes it's like, oh, we're going to go back 30 years and talk about what he was like as a 17-year-old. Now we're going to jump forward 50 years and, oh, he's divorced. Wait, what the hell happened? Oh, no. And I love these books so goddamn much. I cannot begin to tell you.
Thank you.
And then, like, you did a whole side series, which is one of my favorite things of all time, which is effectively in this world, because these people lived for so long, and there was this era, which is called the Interregnum, where all the magical power went away. And you wrote a story set in explaining that, which was basically a full-on pastiche of all the Three Musketeer novels. And it's written in the most florid, like, overladen, mega heavy prose, paid by the inch, And it is like people just standing and staring at each other going, I dare say I shall do something about you. Oh, will you? Why, I have waited nothing but, I have waited a year for you to do nothing about nothing. And then you're like, but it seems to me that you have waited a year for me to tell you that I should indeed do something about this thing that is between us. Why, indeed, sir. Have you thought about the thing that you were going to do? Yeah, for like an hour and a half. However, it is hilarious. And you're just rolling and you can't. The problem with these stupid books is that when you read them for like the next 4 days and you're talking to your family, you end up talking like the Phoenix Guards. And it's like, oh, God, this is so annoying. I had to stop reading them because I was writing a project I'm working on, and I ended up starting to sound like you.
Yeah, those books are just so much fun. I just giggled all the way through.
And they're so, like, I think my favorite thing, and I don't know, I'm not trying to turn this into a, hey, let's puff Brust up for that hour, but
no, that's good. I'm there.
But, like, you managed to interweave plot progression with humor and, like spirit and romance in a way that's just so elegant that it doesn't even, and, like, these two books, like, the Vlad books are incredibly thin and, like, very, like, you were very careful with your word usage and in terms of like getting the story across and as like minimalist as possible and telling us like enough to know what's happening and get the idea without being so blatant. And then the Parfy books are like every last drop of word that you can get out of there. And they're like 12 times as big.
Never use one word if you can find 6 that'll do the job.
And I'm just like stunned that because it's hard for an author to find their own voice, let alone 40 voices.
The thing is, I found this old copy my grandmother had of the D'Artagnan romances, 1888 translation. And I just fell in love with the way he used words, and there's no way to know how much it was the way Dumas used words and the way the translator used words. it was so much fun, and they were so delightful, and I just kept cracking up. And I wish people still wrote like that.
I agree.
Hey, why not? Why can't I? It never occurred to me anyone would publish it. I wrote the Phoenix Guards just because I kind of had to, because I wanted to read it, and no one else had written it.
Yeah,
and then I sent it into Tor just for the hell of it, and they bought it. I was like, no way.
That just seems so. I mean, I think by the time that book had come out, though, you had enough credit to be able to be like, okay, well, Bruce books will at least sell something, so we can put this weird book out there. Were you surprised at the reception of like the Taltos books or Phoenix Guards even compared to that?
Oh, absolutely. I particularly the Phoenix, the Kavrin romances. Yeah. I'm astonished that anyone besides me likes them. I knew I would like them. I mean, that's why I wrote them. But and of course, I often come across people that I couldn't stand it, made me crazy. I hated it, blah blah, and that's what I expected.
Yeah,
because people don't write like that anymore for a reason. But the fact that there are some who like it absolutely amazes me.
I don't know. It's got the rolling vibe of an old school serialized novel where it's like at the end of the chapter, you want to roll right into the next one. And you're like, I can't put this down. And next thing you know, you're 500 pages deep into this just incredibly florid and slow prose. And it's so funny. It's because of that I discovered this Chinese author from Hong Kong named Jin Yong, who did these series called, what the hell is it? The Legend of the Condor Heroes is what this is called, and it was written in the 1950s, and it's what basically was the basis of modern kung fu and anime and like all these action, like East Coast action things, and it just got recently translated into English, and like the same way, like you're reading the story of this kid and like these two parents get their best friends and they swear an oath when their children are born, they will raise them together. Well, these two obviously die and these kids are raised and they're split apart because like their town is invaded and they're attacked. Oh no, one mom runs north and is saved by Genghis Khan. The other one is saved by the Buddhist monk, and they're both raised, or the Taoist rather, and they're raised up in different martial arts and they come back together to fight 19 years, this whole long rolling ass story that has the same Dumassian. I mean, I think would appreciate it, but because it's like, it's in that same vibe, but it's Asian and it's hella different. But can we talk about the Vlad books though? Like, because one thing, also before I forget, your version of Milton's Paradise Lost, Terrain in Hell, is one of my favorite stories of all time.
Thank you.
Absolutely beautiful exploration of like God and Satan and this whole kind of like dilemma of that you see through Paradise Lost, but told through your perspective and lens is so damn good. But yeah, I love that book. But like you started writing these Vlad books I was reading somewhere, I think you were saying like, you were talking about the origin of this story a long time ago, how it came out of like effectively a role-playing game that you were playing in the 70s.
Yeah. Yeah.
How did that work?
Well, it was a homebrew game. This was, probably around the time D&D 1 was being released. And we in Minnesota, a friend had gone to a convention and played an early version with, I believe, Greg Arneson. And went, oh, that's cool. That was really fun. I got to go home and make that up myself. And so it became the thing that we never realized that you could buy these things. So we each had our own like homebrew version. And this amazing person was the DM who invented so much of what became Dragera. And just an incredible mind there. I assume you've played, fantasy role-playing game. I mean, I'm having some trouble with gender here because it was a she then, but a he now. Okay. So I'm trying not to screw up here. He would, the ability to, you'd walk into some spot and, who's around? Well, there's this person. And inside of 30 seconds, that was a fully fleshed out character who had something interesting going on. Just boom, and just carry it away. Plus, the fact that it wasn't a fully developed world at the time. I mean, I stole a whole lot of the concepts, the 17 houses.
Yeah.
And so on. But not all of those houses were complete, and many of them were shells. And so Robert Morgan.
Yeah.
Basically left it up to us, the players, to fill in.
That's the best kind of role-playing experience.
Create those houses. I pretty much created the house of the Shireg.
Yeah.
And my late wife and our friend John more or less created the House of the Dragon. It came that way, and so it was so much fun. The system, the rolling system, was utterly cut back and simple. It was, you had almost no stats, and there were almost no dice roll. Absolutely minimal, and it was all role play.
That's the best kind. I've been role playing for like most of my life, and there's this sensation of sometimes the DM comes in and they've got a fully fledged idea and a story and a world, and you jump in and you ride it to the end of the tracks, and that's great. And sometimes we have these sessions in the beginning where it's like, well, there's a field of mushrooms here. Why is there a field of mushrooms here? And you're like, oh, well, because my dwarf loves to have mushroom tea every morning, so he's been growing these mushrooms right here. And suddenly you've got a plot point, and suddenly you've got a thing, and this world gets slowly developed as you guys are exploring.
And a lot of the times that is how I write. At some point, I began for a while. I think not that long, maybe a couple of years. I was running Dragera as a role playing game.
Oh, cool!
And that is when I learned to trust my subconscious, to just go, okay, let's just do the next cool thing, and the next cool thing, and the next cool thing, and then all of a sudden, it all comes together as if I had it all planned, and they say, wow, that was really clever. And I'm like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, totally intended it. Exactly.
I had it all figured out. Yeah, you betcha.
I mean, you've been writing these stories for so long, and there's such a deep and intricate plot line and all these different, threads and worlds and stuff. Have you ever dug yourself into a hole and, just been like, oh, this character is not supposed to be here, or I don't know where I go from this?
All the time. I don't think of it as a hole. I think of it as a wall. But yeah, that's that every book that'll happen at least once.
Yeah.
Did you see the process post I made?
I've seen a few of the process posts you made, but I haven't seen a recent one. Oh yeah, you did. You posted one for Kriotha.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of that is sort of in microcosm how it is when I write a novel when I don't have it outlined. And I have on some occasions have it outlined, and on some occasions I have it hardly.
Can you summarize that for the podcast listeners?
I know where I'm going, but no, because it's just I can't really. I'm going in. I go into great detail. It's on my blog. If you want to look at it. It's
a phenomenal post about basically you get stuck and you're like, okay, well, how do I go backwards to figure out where and when? And it's a fascinating way of retelling the story. And it got super complicated about language and I loved it. That's the sort of thing those are the kinds of posts that I just love. I love.
I'm a process geek. I mean, yeah. I love writing process. I can talk about it for hours and days and weeks.
Conveniently.
Doing, kicking around different ideas for how you go about doing things.
Yeah, because right now I'm working on my first ever short story, so I'm trying to build an outline and tell a story and figure out I know what I want to do and where to go, but I'm trying to do it in more of a consistent way than my haphazard DMing habit has been for the past X number of years.
Right.
And so it's I don't want to put it's more if I don't write it down, then I'm going to forget the bit that I remembered, and I have to make sure that I know where I'm going, and then kind of just fill in the gaps to make it look pretty. But so like, why 17? 17 is this crazy number that's just been going through your entire series forever. Like the books there's 17 books in the series, or 18 if you count the one about himself. And there's 17 houses. Oh, 19. 19? Oh yeah, I guess the final contract. Yeah,
last contract. Yeah, there's 17 chapters, a prologue and an epilogue.
You know, that's fair. I never thought about it like that, but that absolutely makes sense. And like, why? 17's a weird number, man.
I mean, as I said, Robert Morgan came up with that.
And you just ran with it?
Yeah, I just ran with it. Yeah, I mean, you have to understand, everything I have done is stolen, okay? The Vlad novels can be summarized as a voice I stole from Raymond Chandler,
yes.
General feel and aesthetic I stole from Roger Zelazny, tropes I stole from Michael Moorcock, set in a world I stole from Fritz Leiber.
You know, that is 100%. You know, that's actually hella fair, man. That's incredibly true. And those are also, of course, like, if you're going to steal from people, it might as well the best of golden age sci-fi, right? Like Fritz Leiber, man. I love Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser.
Oh, how do you not?
Like, how it's so cool.
It's so good.
The dynamic between them is so cool. And like Michael Moorcock's Melniboné books or whatever I read as a kid, and I'm like, those are sick. Because I was like, where did D&D come from? I'm going to read every D&D predecessor. And it turns out there are a lot of pulp novels that were written from the 20s to the 70s, and they're all pretty good. Except for, like, I don't know, some of the later Conans are maybe less. But, yeah, like...
Yeah, Moorcock invented so many tropes that so many, writers like me have just, I like that. I'm using it. Mine now.
Yes. Okay, so I'm trying to, like... This one's hard. Like, longtime listeners know that when I get into fanboy mode, the show gets real bad, because then I'm like, oh my God, I love you so much. So I'm trying to find back to a through line here, which is that, like, these stories you've been putting them out slowly and steadily for like years and years and years. And you have obviously grown as a person. The world has changed a lot. And you can see sometimes in these stories your own personal lives reflected through where we're going. Like, the original books were very mafia heavy and very much about, like, the main character is an assassin, and he goes around and he assassinates people. He likes to stab them in the eye with his stiletto a lot and then go and vomit somewhere, or sit and shake a lot whenever somebody tries to assassinate him. And then at some point you became disenchanted with this notion of having an assassin, and he started, like, running from this, the mafia that he's in. And the stories have all been about him being chased and how the situation he's getting into whilst on the run from these people. But you also, in between, did, like, one of the most spectacular, like, stories about, like, the, Marxist rebellion of, like, or the humans trying to uprise against these, like, elvish oppression of racism between these different, so there's 17 races of these, or 17 houses of this big elven nation, the Dragaran nation here. And some of them are aristocrats. Some of them are just peasants. The peasants also live with humans, which are even lower class than everybody. And these humans and these low-level Tekla get together, and they're like, we want rights and money. And then the Empire's like, that's nice. But what I was curious about, especially in reading Tekla, which is one of my favorite, I mean, it's a hard one to read. It's like, that is a real challenging book to read. But also, the hero Vlad is, like, very much taking the, like, opposite position of his wife and of the people, which is like, hey man, you guys are trying to fight against an unstoppable empire and you're just going to die. Why are you wasting your time? And knowing what I know about you and your politics, how did you deal with putting in your own main character's voice basically the opponent of the people?
That's how you do that. If you find yourself in a situation where you have to insert your political opinions, which frankly I try to avoid as much as possible because I hate didactic fiction.
Yeah.
I mean, there are geniuses who've managed to pull it off and make it brilliant, but I'm not one. So I try to avoid it. But if the circumstance of the story absolutely requires it, then you got to play fair. And the best way to make sure you're playing fair is to give the view you don't agree with, put that view in the mouth of your protagonist. That forces you to look at the other side, and it guards you against being too heavy-handed.
Yeah, because your main guy has to sit there and say, like, defend yourself, make this, like...
Exactly.
And you don't get to make a polemic because your guy's like, I don't buy it at all.
Exactly.
But it was like, it's such a fascinating story of the breakdown of this relationship between these. And what's wild is I would read in these books, I'm like, I didn't realize it was only book 4 or 3 or something like that. And it's like, oh yeah, they meet in book 1 because she tries to assassinate him. They're totally in love book 2. And like book 4, they're breaking up and like, and I'm like, no, what do you have? But like, it's wild because I like reading them all together. Just, I mean, there must have been like years and years between these books before, but like when you're reading back to back, it's just like, oh, that was harsh up and harsh down.
I mean, the setup for what happens in Tekla is in Yendi.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, which in the book where they meet, there are a couple of hints in there of where that's going. And then when I wrote, whichever the hell one it was fairly recently, which goes back to their wedding, there's a couple of more hints in there of what's coming.
Yeah, I think, let's see, that wasn't, that was like the newest one that just came out, wasn't it?
Was that
Solomon, right?
I think
so, yeah. Yeah, because that's the other thing. In each of your chapters, I love the fact that the chapter, like, interstitials or headers are basically like an entirely different story being told while the story itself is being told, but in a way that relates. And it's so cool and so fun.
Yeah, pretty much the way I think any writer approaches that sort of thing is you grab the stuff you like and then take out the stuff you don't like, and it ends up being yours. You know what I mean? I'll give you an example. I absolutely adore the Pfaffer and Gray Mauser books of Fritz Lang. We were talking about that. But it always bugged me that the Thieves Guild was legal. To me, that took charm out of it.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, I'm going to do that, except they're not legal. And that's the kind of thing you do. I love this. I'm stealing it. I'm going to make it my own, but I'm going to change this.
So, yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense because, like, you want to put your stamp on it. You want to take the skeleton of what's cool there and then be like, but how would I do it differently? What would make it cooler if I wrote it?
Not exactly. You're close.
Okay.
I think every writer does end up putting his or her own stamp on it, but you don't necessarily start with wanting to do that. What you want to do is write the book you wish someone else had written. You want to read it.
Yes.
And that will lead you to grabbing all the things from other stuff that you love and fixing them when you find something that annoyed you. You mentioned Terrain in Hell. That came from a lot of different places. But one of them was in Milton. There's this character named Abdiel. And I hated him. What? I mean, he was a strike breaker, a traitor. And they let him, and he came up and made this big thing. I'm going to go and tell God, your enemy, all about what you're doing. And they let him walk out of there. Okay. They didn't just basically mob him and kill him, which is what I think they should have done. But they were gentlemen. They were, all right. Yeah. You go do what you got to do. And Milton made Abdiel the hero. And I'm like, that bugged me.
Yeah, because in your book, he was definitely more of a sneering kind of jerk and really just showed up as like this scab, effectively.
Yes.
And he was just like jealous and like greedy and trying to like raise himself again to like Satan's level. And yeah, like you did you're like, oh yeah, he's a hero. I'm like, I don't remember him being a hero, but yeah, okay.
And that's kind of the way you work. It's like, oh, I love this thing, but this bugs me.
Mm-mm.
I want to make this thing without the thing that bugs me. I had I remember many conversations with my friend Neil Gaiman, and we have completely different ways of approaching it. I think he may be right, but that's okay. I tend to approach things like I want to make it good. And I just sort of trust that if I make it as good as I can, it'll have something new in it. His approach is I want to do something new. I want to do something that hasn't been done before. And I'm going to trust that if I do that, it'll be good.
It's hard to break novel ground, man. It's hard to find new things that haven't been done.
It is. Yes, it is.
I mean, like, I come from a storytelling tradition that's like thousands of years old. And like, when you're like, oh, I'm going to tell a brand new story, it's like, well, here's like 14 sagas that have already done that. It's like, so let's, how do we bring this to here and now? And I think that's why, like, I've really enjoyed the way you write, because I think that you can take a lot of these things, which when you look at them, if I summarize a book, it feels very much like, oh, that is definitely this archetype of story. But you find a way to, like, weave reality into it and the modern day and the time in which you're writing, in which it gives it a freshness and it gives it a vibrancy that makes it feel like here and now that's still got relevance to it. Like, I mean, I don't know. Some of my favorite things are like when I read a story that was written like one of the Greek plays or something, and you're like, damn, that is still here now. It's so good.
Yes, exactly. That's the mark of good work.
Right. Like when you look at something, yeah.
Simultaneously, every writer, aware of it or not, every storyteller is telling stories about here and now. And because that's what, the more if we're talking about made up worlds and imaginary creatures and mythical things, we're still talking about the world we live in every day, however conscious of that we are. And it's also one of the most contradictory things, but it's true, is by going for the specific details of your exact time and place is exactly how you make it universal.
That's tricky, man. That is so hard to do.
Well, yeah, but it's, I mean, you aren't, when you're doing it, you aren't thinking of it in those terms. You're thinking about getting it right.
Right.
About making it a good story. But one of the ways it becomes a good story is because it's infused with the here and now.
Yes.
With part of your experience and your emotions.
Right.
Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. Because like I just think about like William Gibson's like Neuromancer opening. The sky was like the steel gray of a TV tuned to a dead channel, which is very much 1984. Because like, what is a dead channel today, right? But at the same time, you got this evocative notion of like, you know when and where he was, but it's also planting you into this universal story. And then, of course, Gaiman took it later and was like, the sky was the bright blue of a dead TV channel, because like in the 90s and 2000s, your digital TV would just give you a blue screen when it had no signal. Now, I don't even know. The sky was a red of your Roku channel. Like the TV turned on.
Yeah.
But one of the main through lines in your books that is my favorite thing in the world is that I am a hardcore foodie and a diehard food nerd. Even though I'm like a lifelong vegetarian, I'm still like, to the extent I can, be a hardcore foodie. And your books are like the most beautiful descriptions of lavish meals in every goddamn story. And they're so good and they're so fun that you even wrote like Zur, which is one of my favorite books ever. They're literally going like course by course through the famous restaurant and eating food, and then each like item of food reminds them of a vignette of these two characters going and doing a crazy adventure. And it's like, oh my God, I love it so much.
That was fun.
I'm glad that you finally got around to doing that, because like after reading those books, I'm like, one day he's going to do a Valabar story. He's got to do it. This is going to be so good, and it was great. But like, so okay, I'm going to ask a multi-layered question here, which is kind of all related. Which is, so you're very obviously proud of your Hungarian roots and your culture, because all of the food and all of the human nature in this story is based in Hungary and in like the folklore of Hungary and the food of Hungary, which I've learned so much about just from reading your books that I'm like, oh, I know what these sausages are and I know what these peppers are and all this stuff. And like, why did you make this? Was it writing what you know, or why did you decide that you're going to like interlace food so heavily through these stories?
There is so much you can do with food. World building. Tell me what you're eating and give me my big, thick book called Principles of Field Crop Production, and I will tell you about the climate and the soil. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Also, food is a wonderful way to control pacing. Art of any kind, art in the most general sense of the word, is about the creation and release of tension. Well, I mean, you've just had a big fight, or maybe there's been a huge revelation that changes everyone's idea of what's going on. The reader needs to breathe. Sit down and have a meal. Another thing is, how should I put it? I'm dealing with magic.
Yes.
I'm asking the reader to believe in magic for the course of reading the book. I want the reader to trust me enough to go with it when I say magical happens. One of the ways to do that, one of the best ways to do that, is give the reader something that goes with his or her experience. So, you say, the acidic taste of a lemon when you're just eating it, without eating it, and you feel your mouth, or whatever. The reader immediately identifies that. That's like putting verisimilitude in the bank,
right?
Which you can then withdraw for magic. If I the reader is now trusting me to that degree, to the degree that I got it right, and okay, here's your sense. I mean, here's your sensuousness, and I believe this because it matches my experience. So now when you're going to do magic, I'm trusting you. That's one of the things you do. The other is there's just so much. I just wrote my favorite ever fight scene not long ago.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it.
And it's a meal.
Of course it is. Why would it be?
Well, what haven't I done with food? I've never done a fight in the middle of eating. All right.
Yeah, because like it feels almost like I said, like in mafia stories, they never fight during meals unless somebody's just getting offed. They're like, no, this place is sacrosanct. We're going to eat like civilized people. Then we'll kill each other. But right now, elbows off the table, buddy. And because I mean, like that reminds me of something Tad Williams once told me, which was like, look, dude, you can't change too much from the real world all at once, or the reader's just going to check right out. And
it's absolutely right.
And Tad is a dude who loves an apostrophe in a name like nobody I've ever seen before. And but he's like, yeah, you can have all the green-haired, blue-skinned people running around, but if they're eating through their shoulders and like, the sun rises from the north instead of the west, you're going to lose all like semblance of anything.
He is absolutely correct.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know, just I guess that's the thing I love is that like it feels so grounded, and yet at the same time, these people are teleporting all over the place. They're telepathically communicating with each other. They're like, figuring all this stuff out, and it's really, it just feels so natural and ingrained, and not like there's no part of this where you don't buy it, where you don't think like, oh, where is this magic coming from? Everything's got a source, but you're not like Brandon Sanderson, who's like going down to the minutia. You're just like, look, there's an orb around the Emperor's head. You channel your power through it. It gets worked. It works. It does the thing. And I'm like, that's just so brilliantly economical.
A lot of that is voice. Is Vlad's voice carrying through, because he will. Well, voice will get you through times of no plot better than plot will get you through times of no voice. And I think it was my colleague Elizabeth Bear, maybe, who first.
She's really cool.
Yeah, she is. I think she was the first one I heard say it, that every writer gets one or two things for free. Everything you got to work at. And I got dialogue and voice. I've never had to struggle with those. My voice comes natural, so I rely on it a lot, because I trust it not to let me down and to carry me through. And a lot of the things I'm getting away with in those books, I'm getting away with just because of the way Vlad expresses himself.
Yes, you are 100%. Like, there's a whole lot of things you do that there's no way a reader would let you get away with, if not for the fact that Vlad is so damn charming about it. And just like the fact that he's got this telepathic little dragon called a Jarek that just sits on his shoulder, and they just go back and forth and have like, it's like they're fencing with words all the time. That's exactly, like, it feels like they're just like always sharp, and the riposte is always so sharp, and it's just like there's stuff you get away with that I'm like, I have definitely put up down a book and I'm like, Bruce, you bastard, they're not, but like you're smiling and you can't stop, and you're like, you should not have gotten to walk with that one. But man, okay,
well, part of the thing about the banter though is my formulative years, if you will, as a writer were as a member, which I still am, of the Minnesota Science Fiction Society. And you know what fans are like.
Yes.
That's what we do. I mean, I'm not going to write a book full of people who are less witty than people I hang around with every day.
That is 100% fair, man. Especially nerds, just like we're going to be going back and forth all the time. And when will Krager get a story of his own? You've only got 2 books left, bud. Don't let me down.
I don't know if he'll get a whole story, but on my notes for what to do in Creotha, and I shouldn't say this because I might change my mind. I might not do it. I don't want to disappoint people, but one of the notes is I really want to have a story which actually shows Kragar doing the legwork.
Yes, please.
Vlad asks for him, because I feel like that's a big hole right now.
It is.
Like magic. Oh, Kragar goes off, comes back with the info. It's like Tano going to town from the Lone Ranger. I don't know.
Dude, so yeah, guys. So Vlad is this mob boss, and someone comes to him and he's like, hey, I need you to go and investigate this thing and assassinate this person. And so Vlad's like, great. And then he goes to his guy, Krager, who's his second in command, and basically says, hey, figure out where this dude lives, what he does, who he sleeps with, everything he eats. And his assistant rolls his eyes, rolls up his sleeves, walks out the door, and 10 minutes later he comes back with a sheaf of papers and is like, here you go, boss. And he's like, what happened? Where did he go? How does this guy have like every magical skill and connection on the planet? I need to know, because he's like genuinely one of my favorite characters in the background of every single, like in the last book when he's like, oh yeah, this is my son. I'm like, what the hell? Where's he been the whole time? I never have I felt so regretful that you locked yourself into 19 books as the moment that Krager showed off that he has a family. And I was like, that's not fair, dog. I need to know what's going on here, and I don't have time because you're not going to give it to me. So you better write a short story that tells me what's going on.
But anyway, so yeah, I don't know that I'll be able to pull that off. I might, it might not happen, but I really would like to. I feel like I owe it.
You know what I mean? We have earned that, I think, just because, God, he does so much. He deserves to have a moment to be like cool, like, I mean.
He was a player character in the original game by my friend Steve Bond. And I think
So
Steve
cool.
appreciated it. The way he came about is on our very first adventure in this world, we went off and we did this and we did that and we did all these fun things and we were attacked and we were almost killed. And like an hour later, Robert looks down and sees Steve Bond, who plays Kragar, saying, "Have you been here this whole time?" I guess they didn't notice you, and it became a shtick.
Yeah, basically, this character is in these books, and you're like one of the characters will be looking around the room, and they'll go like, "Oh, look, there's walls, and there's a chair, and there's a cabinet," and then they'll turn back and go back over, and it's like, "Wait, where the hell did you come from?" And he's like, "I've been here the whole time." But how much of that did you hear? All of it. It's like, did you not? You want me to leave? It's like, what? It's like, why did you say that? It's fine. I love it. I love it so much, and I love like all of the like. I don't know, man. In my dream world, I want a story where like him and Moreland sit down and just like hash out anger from hundreds of years ago about like when Krager got thrown out of the dragons or whatever. But we're never gonna get that. You're 2 stories left. I'm so excited. God, I cannot wait.
By the way, the last contract is finished.
Yeah, good. I heard you wrote basically like you wrote that book with the intention of like that's the last book, and you wrote it so that you could write the second to last book without having contradicting yourself, where it's giving yourself room to, I guess, right?
I wrote it. It's in a really rough state, but it's completed. And then I want to go back and write Creotha to make sure I've got everything set up properly, and then I can modify the last contract if I need to. I want to make sure I don't contradict myself accidentally. I definitely want to contradict myself on purpose because that's one of the fun things, but not accidentally. And I want to make sure that all the loose ends I leave hanging are ones I want to leave hanging.
Like, so I have a question for you. You've been doing this since 1983. You've been writing these books for most of my existence on this planet, which is like 40 something years of this story. When you finish the final when the last one comes out, are you just walking, or do you have stories in this world you want to tell still?
I don't know. I don't plan that far ahead. I mean, I have never really planned that far ahead up until roughly maybe around the time I wrote Orca or a little later.
Mid-90s.
I was prepared to drop it at any time I didn't feel like, I'm not in the mood. I'm tired of these characters. And it just happened that I never got tired of them.
I appreciate that because we didn't either.
And I started it, I started writing in 1980 when I wrote Jarhead or whatever it's called.
Yeah. I love that. I don't know how you got the publisher to agree to name these things with such like the first few books are Jared Yendi and Tekla, which are like getting people to read books with weirdo names.
Oh, no. You've got that exactly backward.
Oh?
I wrote the first one. I wrote Jareg. And it sold, I don't know if it sold a lot, but it sold better than they expected it to. It made the sales staff happy. Okay. Then I wrote Terrain in Hell, and then I wrote the next, and after Terrain in Hell was a brutal, grueling, horrible experience. I'm very glad I wrote it, but it was difficult. It hurt. It was, and I had never thought of Jareg as anything but a standalone novel. And after writing Terrain in Hell, or The Rain in Spain, as I like to call it, I was like, I got to do something to remind myself how much fun this can be. Hey, I could tell another story about Vlad. I know what would be fun. I'm going to go back and set it earlier and do a thing with him and maybe a thing where he meets Cotty. And yeah, that'd be fun. And so I wrote this book called Duel.
That's not what it ended up being called.
I submitted it to Ace, who was my publisher at the time, and the marketing people said, but his first book sold really well, and it had a funny one-word title. Can't he find another funny one-word title? And I went, Yendi. Call it Yendi. I don't have a problem with that. That's a good name for it. So sure. And I'm trying to remember whether I think Taltos was next. I don't know if
Tekla was next.
Tekla was next. Okay. And that one was just painfully obvious. That was the point where I said, okay, I've been coasting for 2 books now, and I've decided to write a third one. I don't know if I admitted to myself I was writing a series yet. I'm good at lying to myself. But okay, if I'm going to write this fantasy series, I got to stop and think about it. I got to stop and think, what am I doing here? What kind of world is this? How does the world work? How does everything work? And what are the implications of a feudal society and what's happening there? And I said, okay, well, then I will just dive in and examine that.
I mean, it went great. So, like, did you realize by that point that you were going to do a book for each house?
I think sometime by the time I was writing Milk Toast or Taltos or whatever it is, I think that was the point where I finally admitted to myself that I was writing a fantasy series. And at that time, now we're talking mid-'80s, kind of, or mid to late 80s. At that time, fantasy series had a really bad odor. Okay? You did it in private and washed your hands afterwards. So a lot of what I wanted to do was dealing with that, and that's why I went to the made the decision early on I was going to do what Marion Zimmer Bradley had done, and I write them in whatever order I happen to feel like because I want to tell this story. I think the various mystery writers have also done that.
Yeah.
So I people tell me I came up with a really cool thing by doing that. No, I didn't. I just stole that.
Every serialized author has ever done. It's like, oh, this character here. Let's go back in time. Let's go forward in time. Yeah, it's fine.
One of the things I decided on early was I wanted to, if I was going to do a series, they had to all stand alone. Each one, I didn't want to force the reader to read them in a certain order. I did not completely succeed in that. There are certain books that just aren't going to work if you don't. So I failed. But that was my intention from the beginning, was to try as well as I could to make each story completely self-contained. What's his name? A guy who writes about the wizard with the hockey stick.
The wizard with the hockey stick?
Chicago.
Terry Brooks? No.
Okay, I'm going to have to Google it because I can't get this far and not remember his name. Come on.
The Dresden Files?
Dresden Files. Jim Butcher did a much better job with that than I did.
Well, because he was copying you and taking it and evolving it, right?
I don't know that he was copying me particularly, but
inspired.
But maybe. I don't know. I have no way of knowing. But I know that in terms of making each story neatly self-contained and still telling a bigger story throughout, he nailed that really nicely.
It's hard to do, man. That is really, really difficult to do.
I failed.
I mean, I've read a lot of historical Chinese kind of detective novels and stuff that have kind of find a way to tell, detective novels, I think, do it much easier, where you're telling individual vignettes that then link together to make it big. I guess from anywhere. But to do it in fantasy is real challenging. But you have to find a way to get everybody to pick up a book whenever and be like, this is your first time reading this book. Good luck. If somebody started with Tekla, I would feel real bad for them. Or Tiasa. Oh my God.
My friend Sonny, housemate, has been lately reading Chinese romances.
Oh God, there's a lot of those now. The thing about the pandemic was that it introduced on Netflix a whole lot of shows from China and Korea that we never get in America. And that means a lot of people suddenly fell into discovering an entire genre of literature and film and TV.
Oh, interesting.
And that, like, because we had nothing but time and nobody wanted to watch Law and Order for the 38th time or whatever. So it's like, okay, well, I'm going to watch The Untamed, which is this, gay love story between two kung fu masters who are also in this world of magical kung fu things. And then you get led into this whole world of wuxia and then all these K-dramas and all this crazy stuff. And it's amazing. And it just, like, I enjoy it a lot because I like to see the same tropes that we see in American stories from an angle that I would never in a million years think about considering, because it's so different. And, like, the perspective is so different. The cultural value system is so different. And you're like, it just gives you a new, fresh take on kind of this vibrancy and idea of storytelling that's neat. Like, all right, I like stories from places. I think it's fun. What was I going to ask you, man? Oh God, I love your stories. Really, genuinely, you're like one of my all-time favorite authors. Well, and like every book you've read, you've written, I've read. Some of them I don't like as much. Most of them I do. I find it like for instance, Leorn, I found a little hard because I hate musical theater, and that is a book that is literally every goddamn chapter is a musical, and I was like, sorry, I shouldn't have done that when you were drinking water.
It's not musical theater. I wouldn't say I hate it. I'm not a big fan of musical theater. Hey, I'm gonna mention you reminded me of my absolute top number one favorite TV show.
Oh,
have you ever seen Slings and Arrows?
No, I have not.
It brought it to mind because the main character in that hates musicals.
Oh, cool. I'm down.
It's a Canadian show, 3 seasons, 6 episodes per season, set at a Canadian Shakespeare festival.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
And season 1, and it's dark comedy and drama, and the writing and the acting are brilliant. First season is Hamlet. Second season is Macbeth. Third season is Brain.
According to the internet, King Lear.
Yep. And of course, what's going on backstage in the relation between the actors, in the guy who's in charge of the business,
that sounds awesome.
The other things, just keeps reflecting and bouncing off of the play.
I love
and of course,
that
the Ghost. It's absolutely amazing. And the main character, yes, hates musicals, and they keep trying to do money, for the.
Okay, so before we leave, though, I want to ask about your music yourself, because I know that you played a lot of drums and you put out CDs in the 90s and they were kind of cool and stuff. Like, that was that just fun time stuff? Like, why would you put out a CD? Well, I mean, I guess that's weird, because I know a lot of authors from that era also just like my friend Shannon McGuire has put out a couple CDs and just
oh, she's great. She's awesome.
I love her. I was just hanging out with her actually this past weekend. She's really, really cool. We were at a convention. Yes.
I enjoy music. I mean, there's nothing more fun for me than sitting around at a party swapping songs with people.
Yes.
With the guitar. It's a great time. Also, there's an extremely prosaic explanation.
It makes money.
I
was gonna say it makes money.
I type.
Yeah.
I play the doumbek. I play the guitar. I play the banjo. One of the things all of those have in common is they give you carpal tunnel, but differently.
Yeah, because they're engaging different bones and muscles in your hand.
So therefore, I don't get carpal tunnel because I'm alternating.
That's clever. I don't
know about clever, because I discovered it after I started doing it rather than went into it for that reason. But I think it's one of the benefits and one of the reasons I've kept at it.
That's awesome. Okay. What's your favorite story?
Lord of Light by Roger Zelazny.
Oh, God, I love that book. Oh, my God. Because, like, look, I'm a Hindu priest when I'm not doing this stuff. So, like, reading Zelazny's Hindus versus Buddhists in space was just wild to me. It was so cool, so good.
Yeah.
I mean, like, any story you want to tell Zelazny is already told. You've done it better than you're going to.
Hey, you mentioned Terrain in Hell, that one of the inspirations for it, there are a lot of things came together to make me want to write that book, but one of them was, okay, what mythos has Roger missed?
Yes, let's go. What's your favorite story that you've written?
Ooh. Let's see. Probably The Incrementalists that I wrote with Skylar White.
Yeah. That was a tour that I met you on.
Yeah.
You were signing for that book because I met her too because I've got
that. I did what no writer should ever do, by the way. And I knew better, but I couldn't help it. I emotionally committed to it.
Oh, no.
After the fact, after it was done, I was like, I needed it. I was so in love with that story. And so, I don't know if I would say it tanked, but it certainly underperformed. And I'm pretty sure I know why. I know what we did wrong, and I just accepted. The story demanded to be written in a certain way, and there was kind of nothing we could do about it. But it was flawed. And hey,
it happens.
So it goes.
Yeah.
But oh God, I was just so utterly enraptured with that story.
It was a really cool premise. I like the idea of it a lot. It didn't quite hit me the way I was hoping it would, but it's like, whatever.
And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you what we did wrong. Have you read Jack of Shadows by Zelazny?
Many eons ago.
We had exactly the same problem he had with that. Create an incredibly cool background, and then create an incredibly cool character, and then get him involved in a plot that has virtually nothing to do with all the cool stuff you've created.
Oh, yeah, that is the curse of a world builder, man.
Yeah, and that's and I think, and I can't, object to people who are kind of lukewarm on that book, because I think that's what we did wrong. And I kind of almost don't regret it, because writing that book was so much fun. We just went back and forth telling each other a story, and the book said, look, I don't give a this is how you're writing me. And I'm, all right, man. Back off. Don't hurt me. Sometimes you don't get things to go your own way.
Yeah, it's fair, dude. I'm thinking about the fact that you wrote a whole book from the perspective of a crazy haunted house in Salmoth. And I was like, this is so weird. And so that story was like, even when I reread it like last summer, I was just like, this is the weirdest goddamn story I've ever read from you. And it's so confusing of a story that a house that exists in 3 different times simultaneously going, but I mean, it was really important for the nature of the metaphysics of your world, but also, man, what a messed up story. Like, that book is messed up and it's weird. And like, if you're trying to read don't try to read Brust books chronologically in terms of like the in-world chronology, because you will never do it. It will not make any sense. And it's very confusing. Just read them in publication order. It's better. Also, I would really like for you to find a way. I know this is a hard pie in the sky thing, to collect your short stories that you've written and put them somewhere that we can still access them. Like, I
haven't written that many.
No, but like, there's a few of the stories that are in like Clava with Honey, or which is the Zur. I mean, there's some of these stories that are about, like, I know you wrote and they were published on like Tor's website or somewhere, and they're just like not available now, or they're just hard to find. And like,
I'll see
on your website.
Maybe I'll talk to my agent and see if there's any effective way to do that. I was getting up to the end of the Vlad novels that could maybe.
Even just like, hey, at the end, here's the appendix of the short story that we wrote, and just put them into like, the end of the last novel or whatever.
Right.
It would be really cool.
Possibility.
But yeah, man. When does Creo? Well, I guess if you're still writing Creo, that's probably not going to be out for a while.
No idea. If it's out in like a year and a half, I'm going to be a happy guy.
I mean, I will too. Give me a year and a half to reread them all.
The way I am writing it at the moment makes it a real long slog because right now it's very episodic, and that means every chapter. Usually, a book will start out very slowly, and then I'll build momentum as I go. And at the beginning of a book, I'm writing a sentence a day. And the last 3 chapters might come in 2 days.
Jeez.
But for this one, that long slog starts every chapter.
Oh, no.
But, it's moving. I've got 6 chapters done.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, every book also has 17 or 34 chapters just because you built yourself a template and now you're stuck with it.
I did decide that early on. I think in the first book, I just thought it would be just a fun little thing to do to every book have 17 chapters, and B, put Devra into everything. Yes.
And I look forward to finding out if you ever resolve what the hell is going on there. And I hope we find out, but we'll see. I don't know. Like, that's the thing. Each of these books, each of them is based on one of the houses of Dragera, and each of them fits the theme and like the idea of each of these houses. And like, for instance, the dragon is a military house, so they sit and they get together and they fight wars and they do all this. So it's a book about Vlad when he was conscripted into a war and what it's like to be a conscripted soldier and like, having to fight. Jereg, he's like, it's the mafia house, so it's like, what is it like to be a mafia boss? What's it like to deal with all these things? And I love that you managed to take these stories and stick. Like, have you ever had would you say that you had any challenges trying to fit the story into like the house that you're stuck with?
No, other way around. It was usually that was the seed of the idea for that story. Is like, I want to do a Tiasa story. I mean, and I think about what Tiasa is like and go, okay, it's going to have to be weird. It's going to have to be this and that, and
that was a weird one.
Yeah, because it would have
so good.
And so it's when you don't know what to write next, when you don't know what the next sentence is, there are 1,000 tricks to getting yourself to figure out the next sentence, to getting past that wall that I was talking about.
Yeah. I mean, like, I just
of the house is one of the ones I have used most often. If I don't know, I say, well, what is this book? This book is Zur. Okay, what ideas does that give me for where things go from here? So yeah, it turns out to help.
Yeah, because like one of the famous ones, Jagala, is a whole book where the named race person, any person from that house did not show up at all, because that's about being hidden and metamorphosizing and transformation. And they're just like, if I'm here, that's up to you to find or not. Not my problem. I don't know. I just thought that was really clever and well done. And like, I love just like trying to weave together, see how you weave it all together. And the big meta story is so cool. And I'm just so hooked on figuring out what's going to happen next. But sir, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
So much fun.
Yeah. Like, I'm looking forward to it.
I hope your listeners don't hate it too much.
You know what, man? My listeners have been with me for so many years now. And like, they're just like, they know that when I feel like I want to talk about something weird, they're just going to sit around and it's going to be a fun ride and it'll be fine. Like, I had Sanderson on the show. I've had like, I mean, ostensibly it's about Magic the Gathering. It's a card game about magic cards and transformation and stuff. We all read fantasy, so having fantasy authors is fine. I've had Kate Elliott. Shannon has been on the show a couple of times. Tad has come on. Brandon Sanderson, other people. I'm just like, why don't I just talk to my people that I like to talk to? Who cares? It's an interview show. It's casual. It's fine. Nobody will mind at all. But if folks wanted to find you or your work or anything like that, where could they go? Or where would you suggest they start?
Well, I mean, let's see. I'm on Facebook.
Yeah.
I'm on Twitter. I'm on Blue Sky. I've got a blog that I hardly ever write in called dreamcafe.com.
Oh, actually, there is one thing I've wanted to ask you forever, and that is whenever you write your name in like your author, you've always got like a comma and 3 letters after that. What are those 3 letters? Yeah.
Prejoycean Fellowship. It's a playoff of the pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood, which was a group of artists, Victorian artists, who actually had nothing against Raphael. They liked Raphael, but they thought that art had taken a wrong turn after him. And so we call ourselves the Prejoycean Fellowship. It has nothing to do with a problem with Joyce. It has to do with to me, the ideal book can be read in 2 hours and talked about for 2 weeks.
Yes.
I want a story. I want a strong story. And I want depth. And I want there to be some, what Emma Bull calls the chewy bits, the things that make you think in it. And somehow or other, literature got divided into more or less pulp for the masses, the ignorant, and highbrow literature. And I think that distinction is crap. I think you can have a book that satisfies somebody who wants a rollicking adventure and also has some substance and even tells you something, reveals something that is hidden in life that that if you choose to engage with it can maybe help you understand a little better. And I would say that the Tappan King used to edit the Twilight Zone magazine, a brilliant guy, and his explanation was the Prejoycean Fellowship exists to poke fun at modern literature while simultaneously mining it for everything of value.
That's great. That is a very solid and good way. That's probably a good way to call this a day here, man.
All right.
Thank you again for joining me. This has been such a blast. It's been an honor of mine. I've wanted to talk to you for a long time. And so thanks, friends. As always, you can also find me on Blue Sky at Shivam Bhatt. You can find this podcast anywhere podcasts are sold, or at YouTube every Tuesday. Thanks to my editor, Dan. You can also hear me on the Shivam Wheeler Love Magic podcast or the Chronicles of Dragonlance. And remember, friends, it's not magic without the gathering, and we'll see you next time.